Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be working with the beautiful Junk Journals paper by Roycycled Treasures to create 4 different projects. We're going to start with a clipboard. I just took a plain clipboard and chose an element from the recycled tissue that I wanted, and I painted my clipboard white so that my decoupage paper would pop. So I'm cutting out the base layer for the clipboard, and then I'm going to set the other paper aside because we're going to be using some of that for other projects. The first thing I want to do is position my paper where I think I want it, and I'm going to be using Wise Owl's 1 Hour Enamel Clear Coat in matte as my decoupage medium. You'll see that I'm using a felt tip squeegee. This is a great little tool for smoothing your paper on a flat surface. It's gentle enough to use without tearing your paper. I'm going to go ahead and finish decoupaging the rest of the board, and you're going to see that I'm going to get up to that little clip area. We're going to go ahead and apply our medium to the top, and I'm going to push that paper just right up to that clip. Next, I'm going to use a pair of scissors and just kind of cut just to give some tension release and to kind of piece that together. And then I'll use an X-Acto knife to cut away that little section. I did have a little tear, but we'll address that. Now I'm going to go ahead and put down those top pieces and check all my edges and make sure that they're secure. Once that's done, I'm going to take a sanding block and going in a downward motion, I'm just going to sand off all the edges of the decoupage tissue, and I'll save the scrap because we're going to use that for another project as well. Here I had some little white spaces, and it's easy to do. I'm going to take just a little piece of scrap paper and I'm going to do a wet cut. And then I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to put it in place, and that will take care of the empty spaces or if I have a tear. Now what I want to do is seal. I'm using the Wise Hour 1 Hour enamel again. I want to make sure that's completely dry before we go on to the next step. I'll be applying some elements from the Iron Orchid Designs Brocante transfer. I just love these images. It's 8 pages of just beautiful vintage inspired images. And I chose 2 that I thought would really go well with the paper. It's easy to use the grid lines just to cut around, and then you can save those pieces for another project. Here I'm just kind of thinking about the positioning. I really did want to layer 2 florals, and so I liked one for the back and then I'll do the other on top. I'll put that in place, smooth it down with my hands, and then using the transfer stick that comes with your transfer, I'm going to apply the transfer to my clipboard. I'm using the backing sheet to burnish, you'll see that, just to make sure that all of the areas of the transfer are applied. I'm using my grid lines to cut my transfer so that I can easily apply it. I'm going to position this one in place, and then the same thing, I'll apply that. You can see how beautifully the transfers layer with each other. Once that's done, I just want to apply my butterfly, and now my transfers are all set. I'm using 2 different ink pads. I'm using Stone Gray by Iron Orchid Designs and a little makeup brush. I started with that and it didn't work out as well, so I decided to get a little brush. I wanted to just kind of age the area around the clip at the top of the board. And next I'm going to take my Stays On ink in Timber Brown, and I'm just going to ink the edges. I like that it gives it a little bit of a frame to the board, and I just like that. It's definitely optional. Now I'm taking a piece of a Crackle stamp and my Stone Gray ink again, and I'm just randomly applying some crackle. I like it just for a little extra detail. And now our clipboard's done. Next, we're going to be redoing a pen. You want to use a pen that has a clear barrel, and I'm going to take a scrap from the clipboard and I'm going to measure the length of my barrel and cut out a 1-inch strip that is the length of that barrel. Then I'm going to start to just kind of roll it, and I'm going to open my pen, and then I'm just going to roll again that paper. I don't really want to crease it, I just want to roll it. And then I'll kind of twist it into the barrel. Just like that. Next, I'm going to take some Liquitex acrylic paint in the color bronze, and I'm going to paint the bottom little where it was blue, and that centerpiece where it meets the pen, and I'm going to paint the top of the lid where it also had a little blue dot. And I just think this color blends beautifully with the paper. I'm setting those things in a glass upright so that they can dry. Once all of that's done, I just put my pen back together, and now you have it. Next, we're going to be making a sticky note cover. And I'm going to start with a piece of cardstock, and I've got a bone folder and Post-it notes. But my cardstock is 8.5 by 3.5, and I'm going to score it at 1.5, 2 inches, 5 1/4, and 5 3/4. And then I'll go ahead and fold on those scoring lines. Again, I'm going to take my StazOn ink and I'm going to ink the edges of this as well. For the decorative paper from that, I'm just cutting that down to size. I want 2 pieces. One is going to be 3 1/4 by 2.5, and the other is 3 1/4 by 1.5. I'll ink those edges. And then I'm going to be using some PVC glue, and I'm going to apply those strips. The small one goes right at the top of the flap, and the larger one is going to go right in that center box, that center area. You could do the inside, you could do the back, but just for this project, I'm just doing the outside for this. I'll put those in place. And now we're ready to secure our Post-it note. Again, I'm using the PVC glue and applying that all over the back of the sticky note pad and then putting that in place. Next, I'm going to find the center of my flap and make a little mark, and then I'm going to punch holes just to the left and a little bit to the right of that center mark. I'll fold my flap down and use my pencil to mark those lines so that they'll line up, and punch those holes there as well. Next, I'm going to take a piece of ribbon. This was about 12 inches, a little bit longer, and then I'm going to cut that piece of ribbon in half, and I'll save that other half because we'll use that for our final project. And now I'm going to thread it in from the larger square and then up through the top. You could also use a Velcro dot for this instead of ribbon. Finally, we're going to make a bookmark. Easy peasy to use with the scraps. I chose a strip from the paper and then another beautiful element from that. I cut a piece of cardstock at 12 by 1.5 inches and folded it in half and glued those pieces together for stability. I then took that strip and I just tore a little edge off the bottom just for a little interest, folded it over the top, and then glued it so now it's decorated on both sides of the bookmark. Next, I decided which area of the butterfly paper that I wanted to use. I tore the edges of that as well and put that on top. I then just trimmed off the edges from the back and then punched a hole at the top. I inked the edges with the StazOn Timber Brown ink, and that other little piece of ribbon that we used for the sticky note holder, I grabbed that, and that is the part at the top. Finally, I just added a little crackle. I hope you enjoyed these projects made out of one sheet of decoupage paper. I would love it if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.